Just telling Jinx in the break, the thing I really love about the Grizzlies the most is their swag. They got this kind of grit to them, this personality. So, Shawn, welcome in. Let's start there. Give me some background here because I'm not going to say the Grizzlies came out of nowhere because we all know that's not true. We knew they were ascending, but at the same time, I don't know if anyone saw this coming, and a big part of it for me watching the team as a fan is their personality, is their attitude, is the swag they play with. They talk trash to other teams. They get in teams' faces. They party. I like that about them. They'll dunk in your face. Talk to me about this team's kind of come up a little bit and how much their personality plays into that.
Yeah, and thank y'all very much for having me, and hope y'all are having a great Sunday on y'all's end. The reason why they have so much fun, they have so much swagger is because they know they've earned every bit of this success, right? This is a group of guys. Obviously, Ja Morant is the star, is the face, as he should be. In my opinion, being one of the top 10 players in the NBA, this season. But the point is that you've got a group of guys who know the value that goes into putting in hard work. They enjoy putting in the hard work. They enjoy working hard, developing, getting better with each other, because each of these guys know that with how much, Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Dylan Brooks, you've got, 6 or 8 guys who are in the first, the top 8 guys in the Grizzlies rotation. Each and every one of them this season has been better than expected. And it's because they're playing with each other. They're playing in the systems for Taylor Jenkins, who they all love to play for. The reason that they have this much swagger, personality, have this much fun is because they enjoy playing with each other, and they know individually a big part of why they've been able to improve past many expectations is because of who they play with and who they play for. So that's why they have so much swagger, because they know they have earned all of this.
Shawn, when you think about this team's ceiling in the postseason, and I think the prevailing thought is they're close, but they're young. They need a little more maturity before they get it done. But you never know with a group of guys like this that plays fearlessly. What do you think their ceiling is?
I've said a competitive second round, performance. It has been my, goal for this season. I've also said many times on record that to me the season's already a success. If it's a first round playoff exit, if it's a second round playoff exit, it really doesn't matter that much to me because, again, my focus and the Grizzlies' focus is sustainable success. But don't get that confused with the fact that I truly do think this team is a contender more than I initially thought. They may not be the best shooting team. They may not be the best defensive team. They can do well in both areas. But the key to the Grizzlies' success is, can they get that possession advantage? Can they set the tone early of finding success in the paint, on the run, on the boards, to be able to get the possession advantage? If they can do that, this team has the potential to make a Western Conference Finals and Finals run. They can truly beat anybody in the Western Conference. But to me, the most realistic outcome is, perhaps a competitive second-round exit, maybe the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I was going to follow up with, for my money, I think I would take the Grizzlies against a Mavericks, a Jazz, a Nugget. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on your Grizzlies, but where the buck stops for me is Suns and Warriors. I just cannot for the life of me see the Grizzlies winning a 7-game series. Now, if this is set up like what we've been watching, Shawn, in March Madness, I would love to bet the Grizzlies if it's a one-and-done situation. But in a 7-game series, Suns and Warriors, it just ain't happening. For the sake of this conversation, though, how do they win that? I mean, if you're in a 7-game – if I were to say to you, Shawn Coleman of Locked On Grizzlies, the Grizzlies defeated the Suns or the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, how would you fill in that blank if I said, they beat those teams in a 7-game series – blank? What would be that blank? What would it be for them to be successful against those teams specifically and get to an NBA Finals?
One of the consistent track records that you've seen from the Grizzlies against the Warriors, who they've been very, very competitive against, and also against the Suns, two of the big reasons why. On offense, it's the Grizzlies' combination of Ja Morant and Desmond Bane that were the more productive overall duo in the backcourt. If you look in the Western Conference, one consistent theme of the best teams in the Western Conference is that they all have great backcourts. Look at the top 4 or 5 teams. The Grizzlies' backcourt had the more productive offensive series, and on defense, the Grizzlies did not let another player either against the Warriors support Steph Curry or the Suns support Devin Booker to a big degree. Yes, Steph Curry, Devin Booker, they may be themselves, but the Grizzlies were able to keep someone else from being themselves. Look at this game this past Friday night against the Suns. Devin Booker had 41 points, but the Grizzlies were able to win the game because Ayton, Paul, none of the other Suns really were able to be productive. So the Grizzlies having the better offensive duo in terms of the backcourt would be the reason on the offensive end. On the defensive end, not letting anybody else step up to support Steph or Booker.
We're talking with Shawn Coleman from the Locked On Grizzlies podcast. Shawn, when you look at Ja Morant, do you believe he should be getting more consideration for MVP? I think the only thing working against him is, and this would surprise a lot of casual NBA fans, is that when he's not playing, we know how good the Grizz are. They have so many good pieces on that roster. They're 20-2, which I'm sure you know, but is that hurting him here?
I don't think that it's really hurting him. I think the thing that's more hurting him is just the fact that he's missed 22 games this year. And there is also the argument that, yes, without him, the Grizzlies probably do have a better depth than most teams in the NBA. He's 7th, 8th on a lot of top 10 boards. I think that is certainly equal. But I don't think the 20-2 record without Morant, it really should hurt Ja. I think that's more of a focus on how good this Grizzlies depth is. Also need to consider the fact that, only 5 of those wins have come against rosters that were at their full playoff potential. A lot of those wins have come against the worst teams in the NBA. So I think that he's right where he needs to be, but more because of how many games he's missed rather than how the Grizzlies have done without him.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I want to ask you about Desmond Bane, and here's why. For me, I always thought of the Grizzlies brand in my head, at least in recent years. I go back to like Zach Randolph era, for example. I've always thought of them as like a defensive team, tough and gritty, low scoring. You never, believed that they could go and win a title, but you knew they'd be a tough out. And they lived up to all that. Now I look at it, and obviously Ja Morant is the face of the franchise. But they're, kind of how this interview started with you, Shawn, of now it's like they're fun. They have swag. They're a little bit flashy. Can you talk to me about Desmond Bane, though? Because he's a part of that new look, new brand Grizzlies, if you will, and he doesn't get the shine that Ja does. Talk to me about him, his game, his personality, and how he maybe should get a little more shine.
Yeah, the thing with Desmond Bane, he is the factor that makes this evolution of the Grizzlies, this new generation of the Grizzlies, have a ceiling higher than the grit and grind era. Listen, there are many similarities statistically between this Grizzlies and the past Grizzlies. They want to play defense. They produce in the paint. That's how the grit and grind Grizzlies found their success. But that grit and grind Grizzlies team did not have someone that could consistently hurt defenses from distance. Desmond Bane is one of the best shooters in the NBA. The numbers show it this season. So the addition of him has not only been something the Grizzlies haven't had in quite a while in terms of a legit shooter, but also being one of the best in the NBA is why he's so good. But his ability as a three-level scorer, playmaker, defender also stand out as well. And he's one of, if not the best example of someone who's exceeding expectations much earlier in his career than many thought. And that's where the swagger comes from. He knows that his play is a result of all the hard work and the determination that he's put in. So why not brag? If you've got the results to back it up, why not play with a little bit of swagger? That's certainly it. His personality, his hard work adds to it, but his shooting at the end of the day gives this Grizzly team an element they didn't have in the past.
Shawn, when you talk about this team and how they played for their head coach and Jenkins being able to manage that group of young athletes, how much credit do you give him? Because you can have all the talent in the world, but I feel like he's really guided this team, in particular without Morant, in huge spots this season.
Yeah, it's trust. That's something that Taylor Jenkins, that the players consistently talk about when you talk to them about their relationships with Jenkins. From day one, they gain trust in him because he has trust in them, for a better way of putting it. He allows for these players to be themselves. He focuses on their strengths, and the results speak for themselves. But a lot of these players coming into, I know I keep going back to these players exceeding expectations, but because Taylor Jenkins has one of the best abilities in the league of allowing for players to be themselves, but also putting them in the best position to succeed. He really, really preaches and supports the players being the best versions of themselves off the court and on the court, and through his tutelage and his staff's tutelage, these players see it in their teammates, in others, how the improvement comes. So the ability for him to have those results, but also to have that unwavering trust in them, just give the players all the confidence in the world, and that's the fuel to how much they've improved under Jenkins' tutelage over the past few years.
Shawn Coleman, Locked On Grizzlies, joining us here on Sunday's Bets. All right, last question for you, brother, before we let you go. As you look at the teams that these Grizzlies can match up against in the first round, is there one matchup that you want, that you say, listen, bring on this team. It's a great matchup for the Grizz. And we know with a young team, we've seen this in sports, not just basketball, across any sport. When you get a young team that's already confident and you can get in a playoff type situation and you can get a win, you can win a series under your belt, all of a sudden that builds momentum. So if there's one team in the first round that you would love for the Grizzlies to play, because you know the Grizzlies are going to beat their ass and get some confidence and move forward, who would it be?
Well, so I got to answer this with the caveat. I want the Clippers without Kawhi. That's what I want,
Yep.
and I don't really know how likely that's going to be. I approach the game of basketball when it comes to my analysis a lot of times from a statistic standpoint. And the reason why I say the Clippers is because the Grizzlies would have the ability to get that possession edge, the offensive rebounding, points in the paint. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been outstanding against the Clippers. I think he's the biggest X factor for the Grizzlies in the playoffs. I think the Clippers match up the best for the Grizzlies to show what they do well, to be able to win games like they have in the regular season, but also get Jackson Jr. confidence going into a second round playoff matchup. So it would be the Clippers without Kawhi who I would want to face.
Listen, I'm with you on that, and I'm going to tell you, Shawn, and now you're more dialed into your team than I am, but I think even with Kawhi, I would take the Grizzlies to win. And one of the reasons, I appreciate you saying you're such a stats guy, because one of the reasons I would take your Grizzlies over the Clippers is something you can't quantify in stats, and that's heart and soul. I mean, even with Kawhi, ever since he got there, it just doesn't seem like the Clippers care. And they just kind of pick nights where they're on and off, and I can't trust that nonsense. One thing about your team, man, they are a headache and a bloody nose for anyone. I mean, you know, when you play the Grizzlies, they're coming to play. Shawn Coleman, Locked On Grizzlies, we appreciate you, brother. Let's do it again soon.
Hope y'all have a great one. Enjoy the finals tomorrow of the NCAA and the NBA playoffs, guys.
You too, my man. All right.